The White Lotus Who Seduced My Boyfriend Tries to Clear Her Name by Boiling the Zither. Chapter 1. In my previous life, I was reborn with endless hatred and unresolved regrets. When I opened my eyes again, everything around me was both familiar and unfamiliar. The lingering pain from being crushed to death still clinging to my body. This was my home, a spacious, well-lit living room with exquisitely decorated furniture. A photo of my mother and me hung on the wall. For the first time in a long while, tears welled up in my eyes. But what shocked me the most was the sight of Priscilla Landon kneeling before me. She was the actress I had once deeply cared for, the White Lotus figure I had trusted most. She was crying pitifully, her face streaked with tears, looking utterly vulnerable. But instead of sympathy, all I felt was coldness and disgust. "Winona, I swear I didn't do those things. I was forced into it. The photos are fake. No one believes me. I can't go on living like this. Please, you have to believe me. If even you don't believe me, I really don't want to live anymore. Boo-hoo." Priscilla's voice cracked with sobs, as if she had suffered the greatest injustice. But all of this was of her own making, and she had no one to blame but herself. I took a deep breath, suppressing the fury in my heart, and forced myself to maintain a calm expression. In my past life, I had been deceived by her tears and had comforted her with pity. "Don't cry, Priscilla. I believe you. I'm your agent, and I will always be by your side." Her sobs gradually softened, and she lifted her tear-streaked face to look at me, her eyes filled with a flicker of hope. It was as though she was entirely dependent on me. "Winona, do you really believe me? I didn't do any of those things. I've been framed." Her voice was full of pleading, as if the whole world were against her. I nodded and reached out to help her up, speaking gently as I patted her shoulder. "I believe you, Priscilla. Don't do anything foolish. Everything will get better." She clung desperately to my hand, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, Winona. You're the only one who believes me. I don't know what I'd do without you." But while she pretended to be grateful, she turned around and stabbed me in the back. She handed over the recorded conversation to professionals, twisting the narrative to make it seem like I had forced her to attend parties and accompany powerful figures. She completely disregarded the years of friendship between us, all to clear her own name. Now, looking at her pitiable face, the more she cried, the more convincing her act became. My hatred for her only deepened. In my past life, to cement my guilt, Priscilla even went to the hotel rooftop where the incident had occurred and pretended to jump. That evening, the setting sun bathed the hotel's high-rise in a golden glow. Priscilla stood at the edge of the rooftop, her white dress fluttering in the wind, her face a mask of sorrow. She looked helpless and desolate. Countless reporters swarmed in, their flashbulbs flashing nonstop, and the crowd of onlookers continued to grow. She stood at the edge, her gaze full of despair, crying out to the cameras. "I didn't do those things. I was framed. No one believes me. I don't want to live anymore. Why? I didn't do anything wrong. Why must I endure this? Will you only believe me if I'm dead?" Chapter 2. Her voice was hoarse and filled with desperation, her tears falling like broken pearls, as if the entire world were conspiring against her. Some of the onlookers were visibly moved, wiping away their own tears. The reporters, who had rushed to the scene, clicked their cameras in unison, capturing the tragic spectacle unfolding before them. Priscilla Landon forced to jump off a building. Who will clear her name from this gross injustice? Is this a tragedy or a conspiracy in the entertainment industry? What will become of Priscilla Landon? Netizens in the live stream flooded the comments section with their opinions, some angry, others sympathetic. "She's so pitiful. She's clearly a good girl. How could anyone drive her to this point? Those photos must be fake. She would never do something like that." Watching the live broadcast, my heart turned to ice. On the scene, Ethan, along with the firefighters, rushed to the rooftop, trying desperately to save Priscilla. He stood below, gazing up at her with concern and urgency in his eyes. "Priscilla, don't do anything foolish. We'll find the truth." At this, Priscilla cried even harder, her voice breaking as she screamed, "No one believes me. What's the point of living anymore?" The reporters quickly captured the scene, and the atmosphere grew even more tense. Finally, amid the chaos, Ethan and the firefighters managed to bring her down safely. The moment quickly went viral, trending all over social media, becoming the focal point of public attention. Meanwhile, I found myself buried under a mountain of accusations and insults. Winona forced Priscilla Landon to accompany men. She's a cancer in the entertainment industry. How is someone like her still allowed to work in the industry? She should be kicked out. Forcing such a pure girl into such a situation? It's disgusting. Priscilla almost got ruined by her. Pathetic. Why doesn't Winona go to these things herself? Even if she's not pretty, someone might still like her. My private messages were flooded daily with hateful and vile insults. Under the crushing weight of public opinion, my company decided to terminate my contract. I became a pariah, a target for everyone's hatred, the proverbial rat that everyone wanted to crush. But the nightmare didn't end there. Priscilla's rabid fans began stalking me, throwing rotten eggs at me, spraying paint on my door, and scrawling all kinds of vile slurs. One night, when I went out, a fan who had been lurking in the shadows for days drove straight at me. They ran over me multiple times. As my soul hovered above, consumed by anger, I watched everything unfold. That's when I realized Priscilla never intended to commit suicide. The whole thing, including the photos, had been a setup. It was all part of her plan to boost her fame, garner sympathy, and eliminate me completely. I also discovered something far worse. Ethan, the one I'd been with for so many years, had already fallen in love with her. After my death, he stepped forward, passionately condemning me, airing out my supposed misdeeds, and declaring that he couldn't bear to be with someone so terrible. He then publicly supported Priscilla. His statement drew a huge following of CP couple fans, and almost overnight, their public image flipped. Priscilla and he became the poster couple for true love in everyone's eyes. And I became the villain, the woman everyone loved to hate. Years later, they officially became a couple, their relationship the envy of the entertainment industry. They received countless flowers and accolades. No one seemed to care about their infidelity and the third-party role they played in each other's lives. All the fans saw was the fairy tale, blindly showering them with support, living for their every moment. Watching their happiness from beyond, my resentment deepened. In this life, I will not let them succeed again. I will make them pay for everything they did. Chapter 3. This time, watching Priscilla's familiar fake crying, I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. She was still playing the same pitiful role, tearfully kneeling before me, her voice quivering. Winona, I really didn't do any of those things. I was forced. The photos are fake. I don't want to live anymore. I feigned concern, speaking in a soothing tone. Don't cry, Priscilla. I believe you. For just a moment, I saw a glimmer of smug satisfaction in her eyes, though it was quickly masked by more tears. Thank you, Winona. You're the only one who believes me. I nodded, my expression composed. Rest for now. I'll take care of everything. Her eyes softened with gratitude, as though she had found a glimmer of hope. Thank you, Winona. I'll never forget your kindness. Once she left, I retrieved my phone, which had just finished recording. A cold smile curled on my lips. I quickly backed up the recording and sent it to a journalist friend, instructing him to release it at the right moment. Then, with a calm and measured tone, I dialed the company's number, my patience already thinning. Priscilla is causing trouble again. She's planning to livestream a suicide attempt. Prepare the PR response. I don't need any explanations. Just make sure it's handled. After hanging up, I called Judy, the wife of the man Priscilla had been involved with, my voice as frosty as the winter air. Remember the last time your husband cheated? That woman's at it again. I'll send you her location. Deal with it however you see fit. Judy's voice, sharp with fury, came through the line. She dares to cause trouble again? I'll make sure she regrets it. I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh before hanging up. Next, I called Ethan's number, casually mentioning Priscilla's latest suicide stunt. As expected, he immediately panicked and hung up in haste. I smirked. This time, I wouldn't let them pull the strings of their little drama. I'd make them face the consequences of their actions and show them the steep price of betraying and exploiting me. Sliding my phone back into my pocket, I took a deep, steadying breath. Now, I just needed to sit back and watch them play out their farce. To avoid attracting attention from netizens, Priscilla had carefully hidden herself on the hotel rooftop, clutching her makeup bag. She tucked herself into a corner, carefully pulling out the large bag and beginning the meticulous process of crafting her tragic look. In my previous life, she had done the same, spending hours perfecting her makeup to ensure the most heartbreaking image possible. She painstakingly drew her eyebrows, applied the perfect shade of lipstick, and posed just so, as if preparing for her final moment. Even in her death scene, she seemed to have been touched by a filter, her beauty standing out, striking against the supposed tragedy. After the incident, every image in the news showcased her beauty, attracting a whole new legion of fans who admired her striking looks. This time, she was following the same script, but fate had different plans for her. Before she could finish even one eye, the hidden media began snapping photos. The flashes went off one after another, illuminating her half-finished face. Priscilla froze in shock, nearly dropping her makeup brush in the process. Before she could fix herself, the firefighters arrived, their voices amplified through a megaphone. "Miss Landon, please calm down. Don't do anything rash." The firefighter's voice echoed through the rooftop, reaching her loud and clear. Priscilla had no choice but to stand there, gritting her teeth, her face half-painted, trying to appear frantic. At that moment, one side of her face was perfectly done, the other a sad, pale mess of smeared makeup, an absurd and comical sight. She attempted to squeeze out a few tears, striking a pose of utter victimhood. But just as she was about to speak, a voice rang out from below. "Priscilla Landon, you slut! How dare you act pitiful after seducing my husband? Look at this woman, everyone. She seduced someone else's husband, and now she's playing the victim. I have the recordings of her affair with my husband. Don't stand up there thinking you can play the innocent one." Judy, holding a megaphone, shouted with fiery rage. Chapter 4. "You vixen! Do you really think this will clear your name? No one will pity you, even if you die." Priscilla froze, her face draining of color in shock. She hadn't anticipated Judy showing up now, much less launching such a furious attack. The surrounding reporters, sensing the drama, immediately turned their cameras toward Judy, eager to capture this explosive confrontation. As the situation quickly spiraled against her, panic flickered in Priscilla's eyes. She tried to hold it together, attempting to play the innocent victim, but Judy's relentless tirade left her speechless. "I swear I've been framed. You have to believe me," she gasped, her voice trembling with emotion. But Judy showed no mercy, her fury only intensifying. "A woman like you deserves to die." Under the weight of Judy's accusations, Priscilla's lies crumbled, her words faltering. The crowd began to murmur, their doubts growing. She stood there, frozen and speechless, her tears failing to elicit any sympathy from the onlookers. From my spot in the corner below, I watched the scene unfold with cold satisfaction. Her desperate, floundering state was exactly what I had been waiting for. Minutes dragged on, yet Priscilla still didn't jump. She could only stand there awkwardly on the rooftop, her posture stiffening, her fear evident in her eyes. Just as I prepared to leave, my boyfriend Ethan appeared. Without acknowledging me, he rushed to the scene, standing below to encourage Priscilla. He shouted up to her, his voice filled with concern. "Priscilla, don't do anything foolish. We'll get to the truth. No matter what anyone says, I believe you," he called out. Seeing my composed demeanor, he immediately accused me of being cold-hearted. "Winona, how can you be so indifferent? She's your artist. How can you not care?" Before I could respond, Judy seized the opportunity to retort. "As her boyfriend, you're defending someone who's been the other woman, playing the victim now. Isn't that absurd?" Ethan's face flushed with embarrassment, the guilt clear in his expression. Just then, as Priscilla pretended to jump, he hurried forward, ready to intervene. I grabbed his arm and yanked him back, delivering a sharp slap across his face. "We're done," I said, my voice cold and final. The dramatic moment captured everyone's attention, drawing their gaze away from Priscilla for a brief moment. Phones flashed, capturing every second. He stood frozen, his eyes flickering with a mix of anger and helplessness. I turned and walked away, ignoring the shock on his face. Seeing him stop, Priscilla's panic deepened. Her tears, once again, looked more and more like a hollow act. She knew she had lost control of the situation. It had slipped from her grasp completely. Judy's voice continued to ring out, her accusations relentless. Meanwhile, the crowd's murmurs grew louder, mocking Priscilla. Why hasn't she jumped yet? Is she really faking it? This is getting ridiculous. Doesn't anyone care about the firefighters? They haven't even eaten dinner and are still out here saving her. I can't believe her boyfriend is siding with her. This is unbearable. As Priscilla stood there, her lies exposed under the harsh spotlight of public scrutiny, she could no longer maintain the facade of the helpless victim. Eventually, Ethan and the firefighters worked together to rescue Priscilla. She was helped down from the rooftop, her face still streaked with tears, looking utterly defeated. Ethan held her tightly, offering words of comfort. Priscilla, don't be afraid. I'm here. Priscilla, clinging to him, gazed up through tear-filled eyes and whispered, "Thank you. I was really scared." Chapter 5. But many netizens weren't convinced. They questioned Priscilla's supposed suicide attempt. In an attempt to prove her innocence, her team hurriedly released a heavily edited recording online. In the audio, Priscilla pretended to be a victim, sobbing as she described the immense pressure she was under, claiming she couldn't endure it anymore and had no choice but to take such extreme measures. Soon, a tidal wave of netizens flooded my social media with accusations and insults. Winona White is a demon, pushing Priscilla to such an extreme. Someone like her has no place in the entertainment industry. Get out. Poor Priscilla. How could life treat her so unfairly? Meanwhile, Priscilla began her campaign to clear her name, leaning heavily into the victim narrative. She posted a video, tears welling in her eyes and her voice tinged with sorrow. I didn't do any of those things. I'm willing to forgive the people who hurt me. I just hope everyone can give me a chance. Her performance garnered widespread sympathy. Netizens rushed to her defense, showering her with support and pity. Priscilla, you're so kind. We'll always stand by you. That scumbag doesn't even deserve your forgiveness. What's more infuriating, her team managed to suppress the rumors about her affair. Soon, almost no one was talking about it. For a time, my inbox was inundated with hateful messages. Winona, you vile woman. Leave the entertainment industry. How do you even have the audacity to exist? Just godi. Despite the overwhelming onslaught of abuse, I remained calm. I knew this wasn't the moment to retaliate. Instead, I waited patiently for the situation to hit its peak. Just when Priscilla was basking in the flood of sympathy and praise, feeling smug about her supposed victory, I struck. I released an unedited recording online, one that captured, in excruciating detail, how she had orchestrated her schemes to frame me and destroy other people's lives. The recording was raw and unaltered, so chillingly genuine that it left no room for doubt. In it, Priscilla's voice came across as nothing short of manipulative and venomous. The fallout was immediate and explosive. Netizens were stunned, struggling to reconcile the truth with the persona they had supported. Oh my God, Priscilla has been lying to us this whole time. She set Winona up. This woman is terrifying. We were completely duped. She's the real devil. With the truth laid bare, Priscilla's career took a catastrophic hit. Her fans abandoned her en masse, and the once overwhelming support turned into a relentless tide of condemnation and scorn. Priscilla, you liar. Don't ever show your face again. You don't belong in the entertainment industry. Get out. The sudden blow left Priscilla pale and lifeless, as if all her strength had been sapped. She tried to fight back, but it was futile. At that moment, she finally tasted the bitter consequences of her actions. I watched everything unfold with cold detachment, a deep sense of satisfaction welling inside me. Priscilla, you couldn't escape the judgment of the truth. And this was only the beginning. I was determined to make her pay dearly for everything she had done. Meanwhile, netizens began to unearth her hidden scandals. Now that she had fallen from grace, her sordid past came rushing to the surface. She didn't just lie to us. She also bullied staff and stole resources from others. Her so-called pure image was nothing but a facade. She's a total bitch. I can't believe I used to cry over her. Chapter 6. It was even revealed that she deliberately used public resources to gain attention and clear her name. Negative news flooded in, and scandals kept emerging. Brands she collaborated with terminated their contracts, and all her planned projects were canceled. She not only lost her acting opportunities, but also faced huge compensation claims. For a while, Priscilla became a public enemy, everyone wanting to beat her. Her former fans turned against her, becoming voices of condemnation and scorn. Her social media was flooded with attacks, and fans unfollowed her, making her a laughingstock in the entertainment industry. Meanwhile, I finally had my moment of justice. I watched her collapse, seeing everything she had destroyed, feeling nothing but satisfaction. This was her deserved retribution, the result of her actions. Unable to survive in the entertainment industry, Priscilla turned to being an online influencer. She relied on her remaining diehard fans, and despite the daily scolding, many businesses still approached her for promotions. Negative fame was still fame, and she gradually gained a foothold online. Unable to appear on the big screen, she targeted young people dreaming of becoming stars. On the surface, she claimed to be running training programs, connecting aspiring stars with opportunities, but in reality, she was pimping them out, using them as favors for various big shots. One night, I stumbled upon her live stream online. She wore a luxurious outfit, smiling sweetly, introducing a skincare product to her fans. "Dear babies, this skincare product is amazing. My skin became so white and smooth after using it. Hurry and buy it." The comments were filled with praise. "Priscilla, you're so beautiful. Anything you recommend must be good." Even though she was blackened so badly, I always believed in her. Seeing her fake smile and the mindless praise from her fans, I felt immense disgust. I called her, giving her a final warning. "Priscilla, stop doing illegal things and disregarding lives." She laughed on the other end, her voice filled with disdain. "Those people don't deserve to be compared to me. Mind your own business." Ignoring my warning, she continued her dirty deeds. Countless young people with dreams became her victims, unable to escape her clutches. Meanwhile, my ex-boyfriend, now an acclaimed actor, stood on stage at the awards ceremony, holding his trophy with excitement. He delivered his acceptance speech. "Thank you all for your support. I wouldn't be here today without one person, Priscilla Landon. Priscilla, you are the light of my life, and I vow to protect you forever." His heartfelt confession drew thunderous applause from the audience, and the reporters eagerly captured this touching moment. The next day, they officially announced their relationship, immediately dominating the headlines of major media outlets. Actor's heartfelt confession. Priscilla Landon becomes the woman behind the award-winning actor. True love prevails. Priscilla Landon and the actor's fairy tale romance. Their fans celebrated wildly online. "This is so sweet, like a fairy tale romance. Priscilla and the actor are a match made in heaven. I cried seeing them together. May they be happy forever." Watching this unfold, I was filled with disgust and anger. Their perfect image was built on countless lies and dirty dealings. I wouldn't let them enjoy their success for long. They would eventually pay for their actions. Chapter 7. Their retribution came swiftly. Priscilla's training program continued to attract young people dreaming of stardom. They believed that through Priscilla's connections and help, they could enter the entertainment industry and become shining stars. However, they were met with endless darkness and torment. These young people were used by Priscilla as pawns, handed over to various big shots, becoming their playthings. Some couldn't bear the humiliation and torment and chose to end their lives. The entertainment industry was in an uproar, with negative reports about Priscilla's training program flooding in. Inside Priscilla Landon's training program, multiple trainees commit suicide. Former idol turns human trafficker. Priscilla Landon's training program becomes a nightmare. These reports garnered widespread attention, and the public's anger surged like a tidal wave. Despite the immense pressure, Priscilla stubbornly maintained her innocence, crying in her live streams. "These are all false accusations. I didn't do any of those things." Her fans also stood up for her, demanding justice from the authorities. "Priscilla is innocent. Those reports are fake. No one can wrong our goddess. The authorities must give Priscilla justice." Despite the overwhelming public opinion, Priscilla continued to flaunt her wealth and love life in her live streams. "Look everyone, this is my new limited edition handbag. It's so beautiful. I went to a 5-star restaurant with Ethan today. I'm so happy." Her life seemed glamorous and unaffected by the negative reports. With the money she had saved, Priscilla could have lived comfortably for the rest of her life. However, her ambition to become a revered superstar never faded. She wasn't content with being a mere online influencer. She wanted to return to the top of the entertainment industry and bask in the spotlight. To achieve this, she once again walked down the dirty path. She sought out influential figures, becoming their mistress and selling her dignity and body. Each time she left a Big Shots room, her face wore a fake smile, but her heart was filled with endless pain and despair. She knew this path was full of thorns and humiliation, but for her distant dream of stardom, she was willing to pay any price. In her eyes, the fate of those young people was insignificant, merely stepping stones to her success. Her fans continued to cheer for her online, still seeing her as the pure and innocent White Lotus. Priscilla will rise again. She's the best, and we'll always support her. The truth would eventually come to light, and her actions would lead to her downfall. Priscilla thought she had hidden her affairs well, but her boyfriend discovered her infidelity. One night he returned home, his face dark, and coldly asked Priscilla, "What have you been doing outside?" Priscilla was momentarily stunned but quickly regained her composure, feigning innocence. "What are you talking about? I haven't done anything." His anger erupted, slamming the table. "Stop pretending. I know everything. You've been sleeping with those Big Shots behind my back." Chapter 8. Priscilla's expression turned icy, and she sneered. "So what if you know? Who do you think you are?" His face turned ashen, his voice trembling. "Priscilla, I've always supported you. Why would you do this to me?" Priscilla looked at him with disdain. "Support me? All you've done is cause trouble. Do you think you can help me return to the entertainment industry with your current status?" He shouted in anger. "I've given you everything. How can you treat me like this?" She laughed coldly, mercilessly exposing his wounds. "Everything? I've already invested your money, and it all went down the drain. You're penniless now, and you dare to criticize me." His eyes filled with pain and despair, and he choked out, "Priscilla, we were so in love. Why have you become like this?" Priscilla's eyes grew colder. "Love? Don't be naive. I need someone who can help me reach the top, not a useless burden like you." His heart shattered, and he closed his eyes in agony, tears streaming down his face. "Priscilla, do you really not care about me at all?" he asked, his voice trembling with one last shred of hope. She answered without hesitation, "I don't. We're done. You go your way and I'll go mine." His world collapsed, and he looked at her in despair before turning and leaving the woman he once loved deeply. After leaving, he drowned in endless pain and despair, turning to alcohol for solace. He drank to forget the painful memories, but the alcohol only provided temporary numbness, leaving him with emptiness and sorrow when he sobered up. Months later, he was found dead in his apartment, the cause of death being alcohol poisoning. His death was a silent tragedy, unnoticed by anyone, marked only by a simple death certificate. When Priscilla heard the news, her eyes showed no emotion, still immersed in her pursuit of fame and fortune. Her heart was filled with greed and ambition, leaving no room for her former lover. Priscilla's life seemed glamorous, but she didn't know that her real nightmare was just beginning. One night, she was with a wealthy businessman in a hotel, indulging in a luxurious lifestyle. Just as she was lost in the revelry, the hotel door was kicked open. The businessman's wife stormed in with a group of people, pointing angrily at Priscilla. "You bitch, how dare you seduce my husband?" Priscilla's face turned pale, and before she could explain, Judy grabbed her hair and yanked her down. "You lowly whore, how dare you compete with me for my man?" Judy shouted, slapping Priscilla hard. Then they started tearing Priscilla's clothes, and soon she was stripped naked in public. She struggled desperately, crying and begging, "Please don't do this. I'm sorry. Please let me go." But her pleas earned no sympathy. Judy and her companions beat her mercilessly, leaving her bloodied and humiliated. "Let's see you seduce anyone again. We'll beat you to death today." The entire ordeal was recorded by onlookers and quickly spread online. Netizens were shocked and outraged by the footage. Isn't that Priscilla Landon? How did she end up like this? So she really was a mistress and got caught. Serves her right. This is karma. As the video spread widely, advertisers withdrew their support, and no one dared to collaborate with Priscilla anymore. Her commercial endorsements and projects were all canceled, and she was blacklisted in every industry. Her former glory was gone, leaving her with nothing but ruins. To maintain her lavish lifestyle, Priscilla had to resort to prostitution, selling her body for money. Each night, as she walked the streets, her heart was filled with endless regret and pain. Her beauty and youth were squandered, leaving her with nothing but a shadow of her former self. Once a beloved white lotus, she had become a despised laughingstock. Every time she walked the streets, she felt the disdainful and mocking gazes of passers-by. Her dream of returning to the top had long turned to dust in the face of repeated humiliation. I no longer concerned myself with her, focusing on managing new talents. Each of my new artists was filled with dreams and passion. I discovered their potential and tailored their paths, turning them into hot stars. My career flourished, and I became the most sought-after agent in the industry, known for my sharp eye and successful picks. One day, I encountered Priscilla outside the company building. Her once pure face was now covered in sores, and she looked haggard and worn. She collapsed in front of me, tears streaming down her face, her voice choked. "Winona, I really know I was wrong. I regret it. I now realize that in both lives, you were the best to me. Please save me. I'm willing to change." I looked at her coldly without a trace of pity. "What's done is done, Priscilla. You must pay for what you did in your past life, and this one." She cried even more miserably, clutching my pants, begging, "Winona, I really know I was wrong. Please give me another chance." I kicked her hand away mercilessly, coldly saying, "Someone like you doesn't deserve sympathy. You've chosen a path of no return, and no one can save you." She sat on the ground, despair in her eyes, filled with pain and regret. I turned and walked away, my heart unmoved. My new artists, under my guidance, achieved great success. I told each aspiring newcomer that they should work hard for what they want and not seek shortcuts. They looked at me gratefully, filled with hope and confidence for the future. I knew that only through their own efforts could they truly achieve success and respect. Priscilla's downfall served as the best warning for those who sought shortcuts. Her misfortune was her own doing, her deserved retribution. I continued on my path, leading my artists to create more brilliance. In this life, I was no longer the weakling used and betrayed by others. I was the master of my own destiny. The end.